Dr. Shah, boleh kita mula sekarang, Dr. Shah?
Okey, boleh. Okey. Assalamualaikum Dr. Adibah.
Salam. Boleh dengar saya tak?
Okey, boleh.
Okey, alhamdulillah.
Okey. So kita mulakan Doktor.
Okey, insya-Allah kan.
Okey, terima kasih. Well, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and a very good day everyone. Alhamdulillah, today we are able to continue another session, and we are grateful to have our speaker here, Dr. Adibah Abdul Latif from UTM, which will be sharing with us a topic on development and validation of a rubric. Well, for those who have attended last week's on the 13th of May, you will know that we have covered an introduction regarding rubrics and its function and how it is being used to assess a student. And today we are going to go a bit deeper, okay, on how to develop the rubric and also to validate the quality of our rubric, whether the one that we created, is it truly can be used to differentiate the quality of students and also to assess and to see whether the criteria can measure the intended learning outcome. And we have with us, as I have said just now, is Dr. Adibah Abdul Latif. Okay, let me introduce Dr. Adibah. She is currently a senior lecturer at Department of Educational Foundation and Social Science, Faculty of Education, UTM. And she is an expert on this because her master's and PhD is on measurement and evaluation. So the right person for the right topic that we have here. And currently she is a head research group and academic manager at UTM Quality and Risk Management Center. And one of the things is that she has won a national award, okay, winner of Anugerah Khas Yang Berhormat Menteri Pendidikan, in which we call it AKRI in 2008. She is a champion under alternative assessment category. And currently she is also a committee member for National Committee for Measurement and Evaluation. Okay, so today, before I hand over this session to Dr. Adibah, I would just like to remind again, for those of you who joined, thank you very much. And please mute your mic. And if you have any suggestions, comments, and also questions, please put on your chat, or you can unmute to us when we have our question and answer session. All right? So without further ado, I hand this session over to Dr. Adibah. Thank you.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good day to all of the participants. First of all, I would like to thank to Dr. Shahriza and thank you to University Malaysia Terengganu for inviting me to share with all of you about the rubric development and also the rubric validation. Okay, so first of all, Ramadan Kareem. Okay, happy Lailatul Qadar, and also stay safe everyone, stay home, inshallah, stay positive. Okay, I know it's quite challenging working from home, yeah, but I think gradually all of us become more familiar and adapted to the new normal, inshallah. Okay, as what has been introduced by Dr. Shahriza just now, okay, I'm not so expert, but I'm a practitioner also, and a little bit about the theoretical and about the knowledge that I have, inshallah. Hopefully we can share together. And if anybody want to ask anything, you can either unmute, and you can also write in the chat box, inshallah, from time to time. Okay, I also will look at the chat box and try to entertain all of the questions, inshallah. Okay, so before we go to the rubric specifically, okay, okay. First of all, why rubric is suddenly there in education? Why? Actually, if we start to look at the history, starting from 2007, Ministry of Education, they start to introduce, okay, the performance or the school-based assessment. Okay, which is they don't want to emphasize more on the standardized tests or maybe paper and pencil tests. Okay, so they start realize that it is very important for us not only to develop the students' achievement, but it is very important for the country to develop the students' performance. Okay, so when we say about students' performance in university, I very much believe that we are asked, okay, to develop on the performance rather than the output. Okay, so first of all, performance assessment is actually something that the process we want to emphasize more on the process, okay, and it is an opposed to multiple choice assessment. Not only multiple choice, but any objective assessment or objective task that maybe the function is more on measuring declarative knowledge. Okay, so if performance assessment, we are measuring more on procedural or functional knowledge. So we start to embed, or we start to introduce school-based assessment since 2011. And if we realize, since that 2011, the word assessment, okay, is being start to be popular and well known, okay, because interchangeably before that they are using the word assessment as same as evaluation. Okay, penilaian dan pentaksiran. However, actually there is a big difference between assessment and evaluation. Okay, so today when we say about performance, actually we can say that 80% of the performance is measuring about the process, or we emphasize more on the assessment rather than the evaluation. Okay, so when we said about performance assessment, it deals with activity which can be direct models of the reality. Means that we are hoping with the activity that we apply in our classroom, in our lecture, we are hoping that the knowledge, the skill, the value that they gain in our class, they can use in their real world practice. Okay. Okay. Yes. Dr. Rosita, do you have any questions? You have your hand.
Oh, so sorry.
Yes, Doctor. You have any
No,
questions?
no, it's just a mistake.
Oh,
No,
okay,
no, no,
okay, no
just
problem. Okay, okay, no problem. So, if we see that the performance assessment, okay, it's relate to the real task, which is we call also with authentic assessment. Okay, assessment, okay, as a big umbrella, we have what we call as traditional assessment, and we have what we call as the alternative assessment. So under alternative assessment, we have either performance assessment or authentic assessment. Okay, so of course, alternative assessment will be performance assessment for sure. Okay, and under performance assessment is actually the task that given or the task measuring students' performance, but not necessarily in the real world or not necessarily in the real workplace. Okay, but if authentic assessment, we are measuring students' performance, okay, in the real situation. Okay, if performance-based assessment, it can be like a simulation. Okay, like me, if I am from educational level, okay, we will do the performance assessment for micro teaching, which is the students, they don't need to go to school. They only have to perform how to teach in front of their friends. However, if we are saying about authentic assessment, they are going to school for internship, for teaching practice. They will adapt themselves with the school environment. Okay, they have to learn how to manage the real children, the real students. Okay, if just now micro teaching, the student is their friend, which is they will some sort of acting, okay, helping the friends each other in their micro teaching. But if in authentic assessment, okay, we are more on the real situation, okay, like internship, like teaching practice, which is there is no simulation. Okay, so because we are emphasized on the performance assessment, okay, gradually, um, Ministry of Education also start to ask us means that the lecturers to reduce, okay, the number of activities or assessment that only measuring the cognitive level or achievement. Okay, they want something more on performance. Okay, but EAC, I think they still emphasize 60% on final exam. Okay, if like me, we have no professional bodies, but our curriculum is more on performance assessment. Okay, so because of this performance assessment is very important. Okay, it is very important because it shows the students becoming. Okay, the student skill, what student can do. So does become an instrument to assist the performance assessment. Okay, we cannot measure performance assessment using answer scheme like the multiple choice or essay question. Okay, so okay, um, before the rubric is developed, okay, uh, the checklist, have some lecturers, they use checklist to measure performance, students' performance. However, if we see the checklist, okay, the checklist only to state either the behavior or the thing that we want to measure is there or not. Okay, ada ke tidak? Yes or no? If the performance is there, if the things that to be measured is there, we will check yes. Okay, if there is the performance is not there, then maybe we didn't check, or maybe we just make it X. Okay, it means that the performance is not being displayed. Okay, by the student, or not sure by the students. Okay, so then we start to think if we are using checklist. The problem is we only can measure either it has or doesn't have. Okay, so the problem is the quality. There is no continuum. Okay, either students perform well or students perform just in a very low performance. We cannot differentiate because in the checklist only either the students perform or not perform. Okay, so maybe we can say that checklist is more suitable for some like prerequisite thing. For example, if you have a lab class, okay, you want to measure either the students is wearing safety uh, safety clothes or using the group, or maybe they are wearing shoes or not. So that's yes and check. But performance that in the process, I don't think that. Okay, then okay is being network. Dr. Sariza, can you hear?
Can. Dr. Adiba?
Hello?
Hello?
Can you?
Dia macam putus-putus sikit, Doktor. There's some technical problems. I will try to get back for a while.
Mic
Okay.
tak work, Dr. Adibah.
Dr. Adibah kena unmute mic.
Okay.
Okay. Alright.
I think it's rarely happened, the line here. Normally the line here is very good.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so I don't know until when that you can hear me. Dr. Shariza, until when?
Okay.
Sorry?
Just previous before.
Sorry?
Just about 1 to 2 minutes before this.
Oh, 2 minutes before that. Okay, so I'm saying that the lack of checklist because there is no continuum. There's only, you can check either the performance is there or not, but you cannot differentiate the quality. Okay, then come to the rating scales. Okay, so in rating scales, okay, they not only can measure either the performance is there or not, but it start to have the rating scale like this. Okay, for example, 1 for unsatisfactory, 2 for poor, okay, 3 for good, 4 for very good, and 5 for excellent. And they will have for each construct or dimension, they have each item that explain about the construct. For example, here maybe the construct is knowledge, so have 4 items that describing about knowledge. Okay. However, then comes an issue. Okay, the issue comes because there is no specific description, okay, under each rating scale. Maybe my poor, okay, if I put 2, my poor is not the same as your poor. Okay, maybe if I'm evaluated as a very good, my very good is actually different interpretation with your very good. Okay, because we don't have any clear description under each scale. So that is why then come rubrics. So rubric is, if you can see here, rubric is something that can means that it is a complementary of the rating scales and also checklist. Okay, if we can see here, rubric is not only dichotomous, not only yes or no. Okay, it has also the rating scale, which is we have, for example, here 3, 2, 1, and 0. Okay, but okay, the additional of rubric, okay, it will give you the description under each skill. Okay, under each skill. So when we say about rubric, what is rubric? So rubric is actually come from the Latin word meanings read. Why read? Because at that time, all the regulations, all the rules are written in the red font. So that's why they call it as a rubric. So we can say that this rubric is actually as a guideline, something that can help teachers and students to drive where the task should be go, and they know the standard, okay, which standard that the students and the lecturer has to follow. Okay, so a rubric is a coherent set of criteria. So in this talk, the word criteria, the word dimension, the word construct, okay, will be used interchangeably, because have some book they are saying they call it as a criteria. Have some book they say it about dimension. Have some book they say it about construct. They have some book they name it as a trait. So it will be same, no problem. Okay. So a rubric is a coherent set of criteria for students' work that include descriptions of level. So the description of level. If rating scale, only level. If rating scale, only level and label. Label for each level. Okay. But in rubric, we have the description of each level. Okay. Which the description will explain or will make a standard about each level. Okay, the criteria for each level. So the most important thing is actually the rubric is being used, okay, as a descriptive to describe the performance, okay, not to judge the performance. We don't want to say that this is good, this is bad. We want to say that if good, how good it is. If bad, how bad it is. Okay, the description. So when we use rubric, okay, it is best if we are used to measure our learning outcome. Okay, our learning outcome, especially okay for the learning outcome that ask students to do, to make something, to perform like saying, explaining, okay, or write something. So rubric is the best to assess them because rubric emphasize on the process. Okay. Okay. So next. Okay. So if we have the task that we only want students to give the right or wrong answer or something like very declarative, so rubric is do not function well with that kind of task. That kind of task is more appropriate if we are using the traditional tests like final exam, like quiz, okay? So rubric is not for something is what, okay? Rubric is something like a how, why, okay, something like that. However, if let's say your test item, you have something that you want to measure in terms of the degree of quality of performance, okay, you still can use a rubric. Okay, for example, okay, in this COVID, many of lecturers they switch their final exam to alternative assessment. So in alternative assessment, of course, it's about the performance base. So in performance base, of course, you will be being asked about the how the process of doing some task, and we need the rubric to measure it because there is some sort of the degrees of quality. It's not like the answer like very objective. Okay, so in fact, if let's say your test item is something that ask the students, okay, to show the process or to measure the quality of performance, so you can use the rubric. But it's you need something like very high order thinking skills and something that students can produce something. And rubrics help us to give a structure to observe. Okay, means that because of rubric has the construct or dimension, so we as a lecturer we will observe the students according to the construct, dimension or trait. Okay, so we will focus what actually we want to measure. So we just measure something that is in our criteria or something that is related with our learning outcome. Okay, so instead of judging the performance, okay, so the rubric helps you to describe the performance. Okay, because I very much believe that we as a lecturer also we are emphasize more on the students' development, okay, rather than the output itself. Okay, if let's say the task is student is asked to do the assignment, okay, rather than we want to measure the assignment itself, okay, the assignment itself as a product or output, actually the most important is we want to measure, okay, the student's performance, okay, the student becomingness, the process, how the students come out with that assignment. Okay, okay, I have seen one question. May I know, do we have to come up with a different rubric for each type of question or assessment? Okay, different rubric. Okay, like this. First of all, let's say you have one task. Okay, what is the program learning outcome that you want to measure? Let's say you are using the same activities, same assessment, but under that same project or assessment, you are measuring two PLO. Maybe one is communication skills, another one is maybe cognitive. Okay, so for cognitive, okay, you must have your own rubric because cognitive is something technical, subject matter. Okay, while communication skills is more on generic skill. It's nothing to do with the subject matter. So in this case, you will have to have the different rubric because you are measuring two different program learning outcomes. Okay? Okay, thank you, Dr. Jenny, for your question. Okay, but let's say you are measuring the same learning outcome, so you can use only one rubric. Okay? Okay, the next slide. Okay, so the main purpose of rubric is to assess performance. Assess, okay, not evaluate, assess. As I said, there is a differences between assessment and evaluation. Assessment is also come from the Latin word, which is assidia. Assidia means that you sit together, okay, you sit together with your students. You sit beside your students, okay, means that you will know every inch of your student's weakness, your student's strength, okay, and the purpose of assessment is actually not only to improve the weakness, okay, actually the key of the assessment is to strengthen, okay, the strength of or the specialty of the student itself, like a personalized learning. Okay, let's say have one student, he is very good in speaking, so we sharpen the skills in speaking. But let's say have one student are very good in writing, so we keep upgrade the skills of writing of the students. Okay, because we have also to remember that not all of our students is born to be a teacher. Some of them maybe they will be a manager, there will be the the bakery, the singer, okay, something like that. So we want to make sure that we will develop the students' aptitude, okay, the students' talent, the students' strength, okay, according to what they have. Okay, of course, we will improve their weakness, of course, especially if the weakness that cannot make them to survive when they work one day. So the weakness is something that we can look at. However, the purpose of rubric is actually we want to develop their strength also. Okay, so for some performance, you observe the student in the process, and have some of the performance you measure the product. Okay, so this is what I said. Okay, as what maybe Dr. Jeannie also asked me about, do we need a different assessment? Okay, first of all, I'm very much sure that every one of you have ever heard about the formative assessment and summative assessment, which is the formative assessment is focused on the process, and the summative assessment is focused on the product. Okay, so let's say that you want to measure student process. So today we will know that for measuring the process, the analytical rubric, okay, is suitable. Compared if you want to measure students' product, okay, the final product, so the holistic rubric will be more appropriate. Okay, so performance are not the learning outcome. Okay, the learning outcome sometimes it's more on the as the whole, but the performance is the indicator. Either we already achieved the learning outcome or not. So you need an evidence. Okay, if let's say your learning outcomes, you want students are able to design. Okay, let's say design a set of rubric. Okay, so we are not so much to emphasize on the rubric itself. Okay, but in the process of design, okay, we want to make sure that the students experience the process of making the rubric. So the evidence, the process is the indicator. Either the learning outcome is achieved or not. It's not when the rubric is there means the learning outcome is achieved. Not the rubric itself as the evidence of the learning outcome is achieved. The evidence is actually the performance in making, in constructing, in developing the rubric. Okay. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is some example of measuring the process and the product. Okay, so if we look there, okay, the types of performance, if you want to measure the process, okay, for example, we have the physical skills like playing football. Okay, so playing football is not about how many goals that you get. Okay, but it's all about the skills while you are playing the football. Okay, how you handling when the opponents have two defendant in front of you and you are the striker. Okay, so how you deal with that? That is the process. In use of equipment, for example, how you handling the equipment in terms of safety, okay? Did you handle equipment correctly, okay? And then how you prepare a slide for the microscope, okay? And for example, if the performance is about the oral communication, it's about making a speech to the class, not the speech itself. The making of the speech, how you organize the speech, how you get the preparation, how you want to make sure that your speech can have a very good content, how you want to make sure that you are prepared with the audience in your presentation, okay? And in giving opinion, okay, giving opinion, the process of giving opinion, how you analyze the fact, how you synthesize the fact, how you want to convince others when you want to deliver your opinion so others will not feel bad, okay? And work habit, for example, how you can work independently, okay? So how the self-directed learning happens. So that is the process that we want to measure. And all of this process is something that sometimes you cannot observe directly. I mean that maybe this process is happen not in front of you. That's why we need the like a report, like a video, like a portfolio, because all the performance we will ask the students to record or to prove to us how the process is happened. Unless if the process is happen in front of us, for example in the lab, you can see how the student handling the equipment, okay? So that one is okay, no problem. Okay, the next one, if let's say you want to measure the products, okay, the products. Okay, for example, the constructed objects, the wooden bookshelf. Okay, so the wooden bookshelf is the product. Before the product is there is the process. The process is just now. However, let's say the lecturer give the task to design a new robot. Okay, the next one is robot. Okay. At certain time, of course, we want to measure about the student skill. Okay, how they integrate between the knowledge and also the skills in developing the robot. Okay. However, let's say the robot cannot be functioned. Of course, it will affect also the result, or maybe the product of the end of the student's lesson. So in this case, that's why sometimes we need to have two rubrics. And Dr. Jen, this is maybe what also your questions. One rubric is for the process, and another rubric is actually for the products. And I very much believe that the mark for the process is bigger compared to the product. Okay. However, have some of the situation where the holistic assessment or the products is very much important. For example, in students' viva voce. Okay. As the supervisor, you will measure the process. You will measure how students learn to organize the information, how students learn to get the information, how students learn to write the information, to deliver the information writtenly. Okay, but suddenly in viva voce, for example, they cannot. In viva voce, let's say they cannot perform well. So it not jeopardize, but it will give the big impact. So the student fail, although the process is very good. The process means that students is very hardworking, very committed. Students know how to find the materials. But finally, in viva voce, students cannot defend the ideas, or cannot defend the work. So it means that the product is really if effect, okay, the result of the student. So have certain things that we have to emphasize the product, but have certain things that we emphasize more on the process. Okay. So the next example is the written essays, themes, reports, and term paper. So in this case, we will measure the laboratory report, okay, and other academic products that demonstrate understanding of concept like the assignment report and also portfolio. So we can see that now in our CLO, our course learning outcome, both are happen because we are measuring students' understanding, we are measuring students' performance, we are measuring students' skills, but at the same time, okay, we also want them to produce the report, to produce the portfolio. So now the question is, should we evaluate the product or evaluate the process? Okay, that's why Malaysian Qualification Agency divide the assessment to two. One is formative assessment. Second is summative assessment, which is summative assessment is actually not necessarily final exam. Okay, so many of the lecturers think that when we said that summative assessment, it must be final exam. Actually, not necessary. So the summative assessment now can be the product like this, the wooden bookshelf, the robot, the laboratory report, the assignment report, and the portfolio. While the formative assessment, or maybe we can say the coursework, okay, is more on the process. Okay, when we say about the formative assessment and coursework, one of the very important principles in formative assessment is student is given opportunity to improve their skills, to improve their marks. Okay, means that if we give an assignment in week 2, it is compulsory for us actually to ask the student to give more than 2 times, I can say, because many references that at least 3 times draft. Okay, draft of the task. Okay, so from the draft you will use the rubric, and from the rubric you will know that the strength and the weakness of the student. You can give the feedback. Okay, because assignment is something formative, it's not something summative. Okay, let's say you give the assignment in week 2 and you only collect the assignment in week 14 and you give mark without any draft. So in that time, actually, your assignment is become the summative assessment, not formative assessment. Because formative assessment, students have right to improve. That's why it is not impossible if in formative assessment, if in coursework, students get full mark. It's not impossible because students will give us so many drafts, first draft, second draft, third draft, and we will help students to not only emphasize on the product, but we help them. For example, my student at first draft, I see that, hey, you don't know how to do the citation, you don't know how to do the problem statement in your research. So what I will ask them, okay, I will ask them to learn, to find any journal, learn how to do citation, learn how to get more information, go to the APA workshop in library. So that is how actually you help the process in producing the assignment. Okay, not at the week 14 you get the assignment and students didn't develop or get any feedback from you. So it's unfair for the student, and it is not it is not comply with the philosophy or the principle of assessment itself. Okay. Okay. Right. Do you have questions? Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. Next. Okay. Now comes, I think, I don't know that last week you have another, you have another course on rubric. So actually, the well-known rubric is 2, analytic and holistic. But actually there is 4, okay, which is the generic rubric and also the task-based rubric, okay. But because in MQA and Ministry of Education also they use more on analytical rubric and holistic rubric. So my presentation today will only cover the analytic and holistic rubric. Okay. So I very much believe that all of you maybe have heard this before, especially last week, 13 May, as Dr. Shariza said. Okay, so we have the analytic rubric and we have holistic rubric. So analytic rubric is designed actually best for formative assessment to measure process, because analytic rubric will track the criteria one at a time. The criteria. Remember, if let's say I'm taking one example for this talk, let's say communication skills. How to measure communication skills? That's the concept, the variables. Of course, we will have trait, criteria, construct, dimension. For example, spontaneous, eye contact, body language, how you can convince others, okay, confidence, okay. So that is the criteria, which is you will observe, you will measure the performance based on the criteria one at a time, okay. But if holistic assessment or holistic rubric is best for summative assessment, okay. For example, okay, for the example, you are the panel, you are the jury of the exhibition, let's say innovation exhibition. For the innovation exhibition, actually what you want to measure is more on the product rather than the team working, rather than how they get fun, rather than how they work in a group, how they respect each other. That one is not something that you want to measure as a jury when you measure the innovation exhibition. So what will you measure? You will measure the product itself. So it is very important for you to see the product as a whole. Okay, this is related with my example just now. Let's say this is a robot product. Although you have a very good information, you have a very good idea, you have a very good plan, organization, but suddenly your robot is not function. You cannot win the competition. Okay, so for the situation where you are measuring more on the product, so holistic assessment is appropriate rather than analytic. Why? Because we're afraid, okay, let's say we are using the analytic for the summative assessment, okay. So I'm taking example the robot just now, okay. If we are using the analytical rubric, okay, suddenly the one who won the competition is the one that the robot is cannot function, because the mark is more on another things, another criteria, so cannot. So the criteria should be as a whole, okay, as a holistic. We want to see this is actually the good robot, okay. So we don't care either you are in a very good teamwork or not. Okay, that one is process, which is as a jury is quite biased for you to measure because you only see the performance at that time. Okay, this is same goes to viva voce. Okay, for viva voce, they want to see either you can defend, either you can stick with you can answer the questions well or not. Okay, they will not ask you how you do the literature review, what is the process when you want to analyze the data. Okay, it's more on the knowledge rather than the skill itself. Okay, so in viva voce also actually the best rubric is using the holistic rubric rather than using the analytical rubric, because you want to measure about the thesis itself, okay, and the students' final performance in answering the questions. Okay, so we go one by one. When we say about analytic rubric, okay, means that the rater assigns a score to each of the dimension. Okay, so remember I said dimension, attribute, traits, construct is the same. Okay, analytical scoring is useful in the classroom since the result can help teachers and students identify students' strengths and learning needs. Because in the analytic rubric, it's more focused. We have the criteria. So we can guide, we can gradually groom the students according to the criteria and make sure, and of course, the criteria is an evidence that related to your learning outcome. Okay. Jenny asked me, Dr. Jenny, how to assess cooperation of students since you mentioned that it's unfair to us to judge. Okay. I mean that unfair to us to judge if we are using the holistic rubric. Okay, for example, we want to measure the product, the end product. But if you want to measure the cooperation of students, it's more appropriate of the process. So you cannot use the holistic rubric. The more appropriate rubric is analytic rubric. And of course, in terms of assessment, when you want to judge the cooperation of students, you cannot rely on your score independently. You need the peer assessment in this case, because you are not with them when they do their work at the hostel, at the project field, okay? So it is important for you to do some triangulation. Maybe you can give the marks when you do the observation, but still you need the peer assessment. So the peer assessment of the cooperation also need the rubric. So make sure the rubric is really measuring the cooperation, not the product, okay? All right, so Dr. Jenny, I mean that it's unfair for us to judge if, let's say, we are measuring the product, okay? Because we just see the student in the exhibition, how you know that they have a good teamwork, okay? You didn't see the process, okay? So, analytical rubric, the teacher scores separate. Why separate? Because according to the criteria, okay, individual part of the product or performance first, then some individual score to obtain a total score. Means you will observe one by one according to the criteria, and finally you will sum up as the whole performance. Okay, just now I see someone raise hand. Okay, please, you can unmute and ask question. I didn't realize the name, Dr. What? Anyone raise your hand just now? Okay, so I have another question. Okay, apa pendapat doktor bila mana ada penilai yang memberi penilaian yang agak jauh berbeza dengan penilai lain walaupun ada rubrik yang jelas? That's good. Contohnya, penilai 1 memberi markah 80, penilai 2 diberi mungkin 42. Adakah kerana rubrik yang kurang jelas atau ada faktor lain? Okay. If let's say you already have the rubric, okay? And the rubric, first of all, let's say you are going to use the rubric for more than one lecturer. You should discuss about the rubric. This is actually what happened. For example, in marking the MUET test, okay? The teachers are given a sample of the students' work. Okay, so this is some sort of training. And then the teachers are given with the rubric, and they will mark the students' work according to the rubric. And finally, okay, they will discuss each other why you give this mark, why you give this mark, and why you give this mark. Okay, and secondly, okay, this happened, I think, maybe because of the holistic rubric rather than analytic rubric. Because in holistic rubric, you will see the performance as a whole, not by dimension. So then comes here the lecture that may be very strict or maybe very lenient. So in this case, suppose as a subject matter expert, the mark should be reliable, not so much difference. Okay. So first of all, we can familiarize our rubric by doing some kind of training. For example, if like us, what we do, because we don't want the teachers or the lecturers when do the teaching observation, have some lecturer maybe very lenient, have some lecturer very strict, okay? So what we do is, we give a video, okay? A video, one student perform in front of the class. So we, few lecturers as a supervisor of the teaching practice, we give the marks and we decide. So practice makes perfect. So finally, you will know that if this performance, you should give 3 marks or 4 marks. Okay? And make sure it is not impossible, doctor. It's not impossible that your rubric is quite ambiguous or unclear. Means maybe you say that the performance should be good. What's good? Maybe then you say that students can show the good performance. So the good performance is judgment. It's still something generic. It's still something that your good and my good is different. So in analytical rubric, you cannot put the words, the judgment words. you have to put the descriptive word. If good, how good it is. What is the definition of good? So it can help you to close the gap between the evaluator. Okay, agree. Ada juga happen with analytic rubric yang tidak submitted kena bagi markah. Jadi jauh bezanya. Okay, yang tidak submitted. Why they didn't submit the mark? Kalau macam tu perlu baru berbincang and close the gap. Okay, yes. Okay, actually my answer today is more on general answer tau. But, okay, I have but actually there is analysis. Oh, kerja tak submitted. That one is attitude doktor. Okay, Dr. Rachel. If kerja tak submitted, that's attitude. Okay, it's nothing to do with the rubric. Okay. Okay, what I give you today is more on general answer because I know that majority, not everyone is in the education lane. If we in education, we have a statistical analysis. So, how we want to make sure that, okay, the writer is the one who has problem or the rubric is actually has the problem. Okay, we are using the analysis, okay, what we call as the multifaceted analysis. Okay, so using this multifaceted analysis, after you get the data, you enter the data, you can know either the evaluator is underestimated, overestimated, or they give the good mark, the fit mark. Okay, the fit mark. So if in that case, okay, let's say you really want to analyze the rubric psychometrically. So I believe there is an education people here also. So you can share with others how to do the multifaceted analysis. Okay, in our case in UTM, we have our research psychometric center. So what happened? The lecturers give us the data. So we have to analyze. Okay, we have to analyze, but then we have to explain. We explain to them. Okay, in this case, what they should have, what they should do. For example, I will say, okay, this writer seems like he gives the mark below than the real ability of students. So maybe you can give some training to this lecturer how to use the rubric. Okay, we also can detect either the rubric, the item in the rubric that has a problem. We can say that, could you please, maybe I don't know the rubric because we just coding. I will say to the lecturer, maybe you can check the rubric A3, maybe the code. Seems like this rubric cannot be understood well among the writer. So maybe you can see either it happened because of the sentence of the rubric itself, or maybe because of the lecturer's knowledge, lecturer's attitude is not like lecturer's knowledge, or because of the external factors. Okay, because in that analysis, I'm now saying the validation also. Because in the analysis, we can see either the problem is from the infeed or outfeed. So this is psychometric. So I don't want to touch a lot about that because that one is more on psychometric and not on the generals. But as a general, okay, you can reduce it by training. Finally, you will have some conclusion. And when it gets familiarized, you have a standard. You have a standard. If like this performance, how much you want to give. So you need of course, as a lecturer in one panel, you must have a cooperation. You must have the shura, the meeting, the decision that everyone agree on. Okay. Okay. Ada some sharing. Based on experience, the rubric we had missed out a few things, so it becomes ambiguous when giving marks to students. Okay, let us see either what your experience is related to my talk. Because when I did an audit, when I see the rubric, as I said to you, sometimes not only ambiguous, but the rubric is measuring the product rather than the process. Okay, padahal we want to see the performance. Okay, not the product. Okay. Okay, so I hope that after I give this talk, maybe we can reflect together. Either the problem is actually the rubric, okay, or maybe we are lack of skills in measuring using the rubric, okay, or maybe we are good enough but the rubric is wrong. So we can reflect each other, inshallah. Okay, so the analytical rubric is suitable for the specific task. Why? Because we have the criteria. Okay. So for example, the communication skill just now. One student, they are very good in spontaneous, but no content. Okay, she or he very confident. But when we try to catch the idea, like no idea, can talk but no content. So as a lecturer, we can advise the students to read more, to do some meta-analysis before talking, okay, to experience, go to involve with the society. So when you experience, you will have the schemata by your own. So you no need for you to memorize anything. So you can, because you have the spontaneous already. What you don't have is the content. So you need to go to the real place, the workplace, so you can gain the experience. So by the way, by that time, of course, you can express the experience because you already have the spontaneous. No need to memorize anything. Okay. So that's why it's a specific task, because you can develop student based on the task in the rubric. Okay, next slide. Okay, sorry, a little bit small, but if you get this slide later, you can maximize. Okay, you can make it bigger. So this is actually the example of analytic rubric. As a general first, you must have the criteria. Okay, this is the level. Okay, the scale, and under each scale, you will have the descriptors. So the criteria, the construct, the trait, the dimension is the same. Okay. Okay. So we go to the next slide first. Okay. So next is the holistic rubric. So in holistic rubric scoring, the rater, okay, makes an overall judgment about the quality of performance. Okay, quality. Holistic scoring is usually used for large-scale assessment because it is assumed to be easy, cheap, and accurate. Okay. For example, the quality of performance, of course, will will happen at the end. Okay. At the end, let's say just now in the exhibition, the innovation exhibition. So the quality that we want to see is more on the performance of the product itself. Okay. So a holistic rubric requires the teacher to score the overall process of product as a whole, without judging the component part separately. Okay, this is a generic task. Okay, I will give you some example. Okay, for example, if you are the SPM, SPM, I mean that you are the panel of SPM in marking the essay questions, for example, essay paper. As an experienced teacher that marking the SPM paper, normally they will read the essay as a whole. Okay, they will not that see the analytical rubric. Okay, find the clarity, find the organization of ideas, find the grammar. Okay, no. Okay, normally when we mark the standardized test, okay, my experience, we will look at the product as a whole. Okay, let's say the essay paper as a whole. You read first, and finally, using your knowledge, using your experience, you look at the holistic rubric. You can match the overall performance, because we don't want, let's say, the student is bad in grammar, but the ideas is there. So if you do that, if you do the analytical rubric, maybe the quality of the product is not well assessed. Okay, because we do it separately, and we don't want to do it separately, because when we say about the product, we want to measure it holistically as a whole, overall. Okay, so it's more appropriate for the generic task. Okay, generic task like the exhibition just now means that you are more emphasized on the function rather than the process. Okay, you are emphasized more on the output rather than the outcome. Okay. Alright. So this is an example of holistic rubric. If you see, there is no dimension. All the dimension is stated in the description. Oh, let's say just now you have eye contact, you have body language, you have the spontaneous, you have the clarity, you have the organization of the ideas. All of them will have under the description. So it's not being done separately. Okay? So I will show the example. So as the conclusion about the analytic and holistic rubric. Okay, so as we know, the analytic rubric, we emphasize on the each criterion, the dimension or the trait, which is evaluated separately, but holistic will be evaluated simultaneously. All the criteria will be assessed as a whole, simultaneously. Okay, so the advantage of analytic rubric, okay, it can give diagnostic information to teachers. Like a doctor, you will diagnose the patient. So you will say to the students, I think that you are very good in spontaneous, in thought spontaneously, but you don't have the content. So what you have to improve yourself is blah blah blah. So the word improve here, how you can give the suggestion, because from the rubric you will see it separately. Just imagine if we assess the student, one time we assess 10 of them. Of course, you cannot remember this student is like in what? What is the strength of this student? Okay, unless you have the rubric, and the rubric is analytically. So you can, the time you observe, you circle. Okay, then when you meet the students, you say, based on the rubrics, then maybe you will have some anecdotal notes, the some of catatan, some of notes there. So then you remember, oh, you are very good in body language and eye contact, but I think that you have to be more confident and can deliver more spontaneous, something like that. Okay. Doctor, question, can we say examination are largely holistic? Yes, because final examination is to measure the last performance. And I believe no one of you, if have the final examination, you will give the opportunity for the students to do it second time, third time, fourth time to improve. No, because the philosophy of the summative assessment, the evaluation, is to gauge the quality, to see the last performance, the last quality. Okay, so it's holistic. Okay, it's not to improve anymore. It's at the end of the time you want to give some grade. You want to give some the quality, the bench, the mark for the quality. Okay, so I would say the final examination is holistic. Okay, all right. So of course, analytic rubric will give formative feedbacks. Okay, why formative? Because you will ask the student to submit or to give report of their task periodically. Okay, what I practice, if we have 15 weeks, I will ask them to do some report or video or anything, any medium, as long as you can catch the performance at week 3, week 6, week 9, okay, week 12, and finally, when they submit the assignment in week 15, mashallah, they can give the very good, not only the product, but you can see that they learn a lot. They learn a lot. For example, I teach one subject which is research methodology. So instead of I'm talking about the assignment itself, the research methodology, the research proposal itself, when they come to meet me, okay, I can detect what is actually the process that we can help the student. Okay, for example, just now I said when I look at your work, I can see that the way how you organize your ideas is poor. Okay, it's supposed to be not like this. So how can I help the student? Okay, first, okay, of course, I will ask the students to do by themselves first, but I guide, okay, read this book, read this book, read this book. Okay, as a supervisor, don't say only to the student, okay, you have to read first. Not only like you read and read. Cannot. What you have to do is you have to give them some suggested things what to read at least. Not just okay, read more. You have to guide, you have to supervise. Okay, that's why our name is supervisor. Okay. The second one, when the student make mistake, I will put in the e-learning. Okay, I will give comments. Sometimes maybe in WhatsApp group. I will do. Sometimes I didn't. I have no energy some more to write, to type so many WhatsApp group, right? So I will do the voice record. So the time I correct one performance of the student, believe me, actually, the rest student will also do the same mistake. So you save your time. Okay? I always say to my student, don't private message me. Okay? You have to put in the group, in the e-learning, so everyone can see. So when you do mistake, okay, the others will learn and they will not do that. So what happened when have 2-3 groups, they give the formative draft, I can see that the rest will learn and they will not do the same mistake. It's good. It's assessment. Assessment is about cooperation, not about the competition, not about that I can do better than you, you can do better than me. No, it's about we can improve together. We have to reach the standard together. It's more on the criterion based, not norm reference based. Okay? Okay, I have a question. Student shy, doctor, but I agree. I try to ask them to talk in group too. Yeah, we have. That is a process. Why shy? That means that their lack of confidence or their lack of reading knowledge. But it's okay. Sometimes we also as a lecturer, sometimes when in the conference, we also feel shy to give question. Maybe we think that everyone will say what question is it. But actually, when we ask the question, believe me, have another lecturer also actually think or want to ask the same thing. It's normal. Okay. So the next one is the analytic rubric is easier to link to instruction compared to the holistic rubric because we have the criteria separately. So we know that what are the things to be done or to be corrected, or what are the next instruction that we should give to the students rather than holistic, because holistic all the criteria in one. So when we put the mark, actually we don't know which one is actually we want to ask them to improve. But it's suitable for the terms. The term is summative. The term is holistic. It's not to improve. It's to give the quality. Okay, that's why when you give the mark in finalize them, they cannot improve anymore. It's only you want to give the quality. That's why you are using the holistic. Okay, not using the analytic. If analytic, yes, our focus is we want the student to improve. That is actually the main important thing in higher education. We want students to develop. We want students to learn, to construct their own knowledge from the experience of work doing the assignment. Not the assignment that we are interested on now. We are interested on the process. If we are really love our students. And remember, our student is not impossible. It's our children also. So, of course, we want our children, our students to have that kind of skills, knowledge, and value that they can survive later after they finish their study. That is the main. That is the happiness actually. Education, the meaning of education is actually something that can bring you to happiness. Okay, so let's say I go to school, I learn how to peel mangoes. I go back home. When I want to eat the mango, I can peel. I'm very happy because I can eat the mangoes. I go to the kindergarten, for example, the teacher show me how to cut the donut, okay, and share to others. So at home, I can cut the donut and I can give to my siblings. I'm very happy. This is actually the education. Means that from our assessment, from our assignment, we provide the room that students can develop and use their experience for their real life, for their future life, and can help them to survive. Okay? So, the continuous assessment using formative, correct, and using analytical rubric. Very good. That is Dr. Magasan. That's correct. Okay? All right. So, continuous assessment, okay, same like my next point, is good analytical rubric is good for formative assessment. However, analytic assessment is adaptable for summative assessment, but you have to see why you want to use the analytic rubric in your summative assessment, which is I will recommend you. Of course, it depends on the situation, but we will share also when to use the analytic and when the best to use the holistic. Okay. Okay, if holistic rubric, okay, the scoring is faster than with analytic rubric. Why? Because you will observe at one time. As an expert, you see the performance, and there is a mark actually already in your mind, and then you will tally the evaluation that you met with the marks given in the holistic rubric. So no need for you to look at every single dimension. Okay, like analytic rubric, it's more time because you have to observe, you have to measure according to the dimension. So of course, it requires less time to achieve inter-rater reliability. Okay, like this. Okay. When say about reliability, okay, I believe many of you always listen about validity and reliability. So remember one thing, reliability shows how frequent, how consistent the mark appear in the data set. Okay, so if you are using the holistic rubric, of course the data is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say 5 rating scale, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and you don't have any dimension. So the consistency, the marks to be appear is higher rather than using the analytical rubric. Why? In analytical rubric, you have many dimensions, and then you have another scale. So for every single dimension, okay, you will need the score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is I will give 1, maybe you give 2. So the more range of marks, okay, although 1, 2, 3, 5 because we have the criteria, so the data set will be bigger. So the lower that the consistency will happen. Okay, the consistency will happen because the taburan, the distribution of the marks, okay, is more compared to the holistic rubric, only 1, 2, 3, 5 for all. So the consistency of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will have a higher chances to be repeated. Okay, so the inter-rater reliability will be it will require less time compared to the holistic compared to the analytical rubric. It takes more time because more criterion, and each criterion will have their own scale. Okay, and holistic rubric is good for summative assessment. Okay, because in summative assessment, it's not to improve student performance, it's to gauge the quality at the end of the lesson. So now the disadvantages in analytic, as I said just now, is take more time to score than holistic rubric, and in terms of the inter-rater reliability, it take more time because they have more criteria compared to holistic rubric. And some disadvantages of holistic rubric, single overall score does not communicate information about what to do or to improve. Okay, and of course, as I said, because at the first place, it's not to help them to improve. For example, your SPM results. Do you know your SPM result? You don't know, right? You only know the grade. Because at that time, that grade is not to help you to improve. It's only to do some selection, to give you the grade, to give you qualification. Either you qualified or not to go to the boarding school, to the secondary school. Only that, not to improve some more what you have to do for this subject. Okay. And of course, holistic rubric is not good for formative assessment because there is no the criterion division. So if you want to help student for improvement, you don't know which criteria is more needed compared to other criteria. So for formative assessment, it's best to use the analytical rubric, and for holistic assessment, it's best to use for summative. So holistic rubric is best to use for summative assessment. Okay, I have questions. Formative is not going to contribute to final grade in the final summation. Okay, like this. By principles, formative is not to grade students. It's not to grade students. However, assignment, for example, okay, let's say assignment is formative assessment because it's under coursework. Okay. Our PLO is actually, for example, our PLO is to measure the performance. You realize or not, our program learning outcome is not about the product. It's about the cognitive skills, it's about the knowledge, it's about the technical skills, it's about the communication skills, personal skills, interpersonal skills, team working skills, right? So, that all things needs the mark in terms of process. Okay? So, finally, the formative marks, okay? Let's say you have the first draft, second draft, third draft, and fourth draft. Okay. Of course, you cannot take an average for formative assessment. Why? Because let's say communication skills. Let's say the first time she or he got E, cannot talk at all. Okay? And then the second one maybe she become better, got C. The third one got B. Until at the end of week 14, she can got 80 marks, for example, which is A. So of course, the final mark is actually 80. The final mark for the task, or final mark for the performance. Okay. However, the philosophy of formative assessment is not about the 80 mark just now. It's about the process of how to get that 80 marks. But finally, that 80 marks that we get from the evidence of the performance, we will sum up together with the summative assessment, okay, with the final examination. Okay, but the 80 marks is not actually to grade students, no. It's only to give the description where is your performance. Okay, but finally the 80 marks, okay, will be used, will be add up with the summative assessment, because our system, we add up the formative and summative. So this mark, okay, this mark, the 80 mark is actually showing the process, okay, not the product. And finally, we will sum up with the assignment or with the final exam or summative assessment. Okay. Yeah. So formative is so answering the Dr. Rachel Mansa's questions. It will contribute, but it's not for grading. Okay, it's not for grading. The grading is the last one, the CGPA. The CGPA. Okay, but the mark there for formative assessment is contribute more on the student's process and how to develop. Okay. Okay, Dr. Rachel. Okay, next. Okay, so what is in the rubrics? Okay, first you know that we have the criteria or construct. Okay, and then we will, let's say just now we have communication skills. The communication skill is the conceptual definition. So under the communication skill, we have construct like body language, like eye contact, like spontaneous, like organization of ideas, like confidence, like negotiation skills. Everything is there. Okay, and when you do the description, when you do the criteria or construct, make sure you put the noun, not the, you put the something descriptive, not the evaluative. For example, if you want to measure the organization of idea, you put that organization of idea, not good organization of idea. Because if you put good organization of idea, it shows that you are going to judge, okay, not going to describe. Okay, the next one is the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, make sure you know the differences between one scale to another scale. Okay, we have the definition and descriptors under each scale, and make sure that it really have a cut score, it really have the obvious difference between one continuum to another continuum. And the last one is weight. Okay, just now an example that I show you, there is no weight. But weight is something good actually to consider, unless you think that each criteria have an equal importance or equal weight. Okay, for example, just now communication skills, we have body language, we have eye contact. Do you think that body language and eye contact is same the importance? Is same, so you can only give all the mark same, no need the weight. But let's say you think that in communication skills, the most important is the organization of ideas, the flow of ideas, the spontaneous. So maybe you can give the weight, the higher weight for the more important or significant criteria. Okay? Okay. So now, how to develop the rubric? Okay? So first of all, how to decide on appropriate criteria. Okay, criteria just now, body language, eye contact. Okay, what are the criteria for good work on the task that the rubric is to assess? Of course, in this case, you have to link, you have to relate with your learning outcome. Okay, with your learning outcome. So what should a student, peer or lecturer be looking for? So make sure at every time you want to measure you want to develop the rubric, your CLO, your course learning outcome and program learning outcome should be next to you. So for example, if you want the students to conduct a research in a school, so of course you will have to find the criteria in conducting research in terms of ethics, in terms of searching information, in terms of administering the data, administering the instrument, in terms of analyzing the data. So where to get all of this? Okay, first I will answer general answer. To get the criteria of each level, to get the criteria for the conceptual definition that we want to measure, for example, just now communication skills. First, you can do the meta-analysis. You know meta-analysis, for example, you read 10 books on communication skills. So what authors one said to be measured in communication skills? What authors second say until the 10, authors 10? Okay, so you do some table. Okay, maybe I can show you after this some example. You do the some table. Okay, this is the authors and this is the criteria need to be measured. And then you check how many authors say that body language is very important. Maybe 10 out of 10 said body language is something to measure. Okay, something to measure when you want to measure communication skills. So let's say your assessment is through online like this. So you will make it compulsory for the students to on the video because you want to see the body language. But maybe from all the criteria given from the 10 authors, maybe have some criteria, only 2 of them agree, only 1 of them agree. So we know that that criteria is not important. Okay, so basically, like us in UTM, we already have our own operational definition for each generic skills. For example, for communication skills, what to be observed, we already have. So we just take that operational definition and we discuss among the panels. Okay, for this class, for example, how we want to measure the communication skill based on the operational definition. Okay, do we need anything extra, or do we need something to be added, okay, rather than the operational definition given by the university? So if let's say your university don't have any operational definition, so you can do your own operational definition. You can find your own criteria by doing the meta-analysis, read the books regarding on what you want to assess, or maybe let's say it's quite tough because sometimes communication skills is not our field. What you can do also, you find the rubric that you want to measure, that they want to measure the communication skills. Maybe find 10 rubrics and you compare the criteria. Okay, so from the 10 rubrics, let's say all 10 rubrics say body language is must to be assessed. So of course, in your rubric, body language is one of the criteria that should be assessed. Okay, so that is what I say in general. Okay. So you can also give your rubric to the expert. So the expert will give the weight either the criteria is important or not. Then you can run psychometrically the analysis, any kappa analysis, to see that how many experts say that this criteria is very much important to be assessed. So if communication skills, you have to give to the lecturer in communication field, the language field, or they have so much experience about communication. Okay, that is criteria. First, how to determine the criteria. This should indicate the characteristic of the learning outcome the task is supposed to indicate. Okay, means that the criteria, for example, just now, when the assessment method is student have to do the research, conduct the research, kan? So of course the criteria is the process of doing the research. As I said, planning, for example. Secondly, maybe ask for what? Consent. The third one is integrity. The fourth one maybe how to deal with the respondent. Okay, means that the process of the assessment, and the assessment finally will link to your CLO. So means that this is some sort of constructive alignment also. Means that our criteria is related with our task, which is our task is related with our course learning outcome. Of course, if your course learning outcome is to develop, okay, means that students have to develop, not only reading. They have to do something new. They have to own something. So the process of developing something, okay, is one of the things to be considered to be written in your criteria. Okay, next is describe qualities that you and the student should look for as evidence of students' learning. Okay, in developing rubric, okay, that is why actually rubric is compulsory to be given to the student at the first week of your lecture. The first week of your lecture. Normally on the first week of lecture, we didn't start so much in our lesson. We will know the student's background and we will discuss about the assessment. Okay. Somehow, for example, let's say the rubric need the student to assess some website, for example. And this COVID, for example, the students cannot, they at the house they don't have the good network. So means that in this case the evidence can be more means that loose, means that not so strict. Means it's not necessary from the website. Maybe can be interview, maybe can be like another information searching. Okay, means that we call as the rubric is still negotiable. Means that you can discuss with your students, is this evidence, is this rubric is too high for you? Is this realistic? Is this something that you can do in 14 weeks? Okay, maybe they will say, doctor, cannot do, doctor, this is school holiday. How come we can go to the schools and get the data? It's very difficult for us. Then maybe you think, the time that you do the rubric, maybe you didn't realize that there is school holiday. That's why it's very important for us to discuss together our rubric. I have one case. One of the lecturers in my workshop, the lecturer said to me that, doctor, I'm very surprised. When I give an assignment, no one of my students reach my standard. No one. Then I become like, wow, is your standard is so high? I said, not so high, the lecturer said. Then come to my mind one question, okay, which is, I asked the lecturer, at the first place, did you give the students, did you give the students the rubric? You know what the lecturer answered? Shall I give it? It's supposed to be for my own record only, right? If you give the students, so the students will know what to do. I said, that it is. Actually, the purpose of rubric is students will know what they want to do, where they want to drive their work according to your standard. Because you did not give your rubric, that's why the students do the task according to their understanding, according to their expectation, not your expectation. Because the rubric is actually the communication between you and the students, how you want the students to perform that task. So you see, in this case, the evidence also you have to discuss with students. Could you please give me 1 minute, because I want to charge my laptop. Sorry, Okay, sorry. Okay. So in good practice or in the standard in the document of Malaysian Qualification Agency, there is also an item in audit. Either the lecturer gives the rubric to the students or not at the first week or at the beginning of their teaching. So it's compulsory actually to give the rubric to the students. Okay, so they know what to do actually. Okay, the next one. Okay. So effective rubric do not list all possible criteria. Okay, as I said, like communication just now, we have so many criteria, but we just choose the most significant ones. That's why I said if you are doing the meta-analysis, you do comparison, this rubric, this all 10 rubrics, what they measure, okay, from the book, what they measure, experts say what to be measured, then you can do some meta-analysis and finally you can choose the most important. So how to know the most important? Psychometrically, actually, if the level of agreement is more than 0.6, let's say you have 10 reference just now, 6 of the authors said you should measure the body language. So actually 6 is good enough to be accepted. But let's say there are so many, have 20 criteria that to be accepted, so you choose the best, maybe from 0.8 until 1.0. Okay, so normally when you do the meta-analysis, you will realize that the item that have higher agreement, okay, is actually the important criteria. Okay. To choose criteria, start with your intended learning outcome. Okay, so I said actually this is same as what I explained just now. So what characteristics of student work would give evidence for student learning of the knowledge or skills specified in course learning outcome? Okay, so when you have a rubric, okay, the rubric will not function if there is no the draft. When I say draft, it's not necessarily written. Sometimes maybe the student give video, the student come to meet you, the student perform in front of you. Okay, that's an evidence. That's an evidence. So that evidence is actually that we will evaluate using the rubric. So the first draft, second draft, third draft, fourth draft, until finally the student come up with the last performance. So if we didn't get that 1, 2, 3, 4, so we didn't give any evaluation on the process. So it's not fair. Okay, it's not fair for the students. Okay. Okay. So the criteria must be appropriate. Appropriate means that align with your course learning outcome. Okay, it's definable means that it's clear. You know what is body language, what is spontaneous, what is eye contact. Okay, and the operational definition or the criteria should be what should be shared with the student. So that means the student also have the same understanding on the meaning of the criteria. It's observable, of course. Something tangible only can be measured. You cannot measure students' understanding, but you can measure how they explain, how they talk. Okay, means that when you say, "Do you understand?" Everybody will say, "Yes, I understand." So you can measure like that. So how you understand? Now perform, for example, some short essay to show that you understand. Then perform the short essay, so we know that either the student understand or not. So is the observable is the essay, is the understanding one. Okay. The fourth one is distinct from others. For example, they have a mutual exclusive criteria. Body contact is maybe more or less same like eye contact, right? So maybe the body contact can include the eye contact, but body contact will not be same as organization of idea or spontaneous. Okay, so the good criteria also, the criteria is independently. It will not redundant each other. Okay, all the criteria together describe the whole of the learning outcome, so it's complete. And the last one is the criteria is able to support descriptions along a continuum of a quality. So means that each criterion can be described over a range of performance level. For example, just now, if let's say the eye contact, so how to describe the eye contact for the level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4? Yes, Dr. Fatih Naziha, please. You have any question? You raise your hand just now? Dr. Fatin Naziha? Oh, or mistakenly. Okay.
Mungkin tertekan je.
Tertekan. Okay, tak apa. Okay, seterusnya adalah level description. Okay, level description which is 1, 2, 3, 4 itulah. Okay, the scale. Okay, it depicts what one would observe. Okay. Sorry. Okay. In the work rather than the quality conclusion one would draw. Okay. So the level of descriptions should be something descriptive. Again, it's not something judgmental. Okay. So how many levels there should be? Of course, it should be more than 2. If 2, it will seem like checklist. Okay, it will be same like checklist because checklist have only 2. Yes or no? Okay. So the best answer to this question is the conceptual answer. Okay, you can use as many levels as you want. 5, 6, 7, 10, as long as each continuum, okay, can be differentiated clearly, okay, among the lecturers. Okay, we want to make sure that you can differentiate between scale 1 and 2, between scale 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5. Okay, of course not scale 1 and 3, scale 1 and 4. Of course the next scale, 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5. Okay, so that is a general question. That is general answer. Means that you can develop the level of the description first based on how much your criteria can be described. Okay, clearly. Okay, the second one maybe how the lecturers can differentiate between the scale clearly. And psychometrically answer is we have what we call as rating scale analysis. Okay. In rating scale analysis, okay, the analysis will show you clearly either the lecturers can differentiate between scale 1 and scale 2 or not, scale 2 and scale 3 or not, scale 3 and scale 4 or not. So the analysis also will give you suggestion. Instead of having 5 scales, actually the lecturer only can differentiate 4 scales. So means that instead of using 5 scales, just use the 4 scale. So, and based on the literature also, the best practice, the scale that can be differentiated by the raters clearly is between 4 or 5 levels only. Okay? For example, advanced, proficient, basic, and below basic is not good, better, poor. Or actually you can put only A, B, C, D, E. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No need to give label also can, no problem. Because the label is just ordinal. It's nothing to do. Okay, the most important is the description. Okay, so next. Okay. Right. So, the description of level performance should be descriptive. It's not judgmental. Okay, this to describe. Should be clear. Student and teacher, they understand each description, the level of description between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What are the description? They understand well. Okay, and it can cover the whole range of performance. Okay, from the lowest to the highest performance. Okay, and make sure that everyone can distinguish among the levels. Okay, center the target performance. Okay, the target performance is actually the minimum requirement because in the concept of mastery learning, okay, students are able to achieve at least, for example, B plus, kan? So maybe the B plus, the mark is 70. So we hope that at the end of the course, students are able to get at least the performance level at 7 out of 10. At least, minimum. Okay? And number 6, parallel description from level to level. Parallel means that the description is not like jumping too high. Okay? Not from poor to excellent. Must have poor, better, good, excellent, exemplary. Means that the description also is parallel from level to level. Okay? So, first, when you want to develop the rubrics, you have to re-examine your learning outcomes. Because from your learning outcomes, you will know that what are the criteria what are the things, what are the skills that you want to measure. In fact, maybe you don't need rubric. Maybe what you need is only the answer scheme. Okay, let's say that your assessment is final exam, test, tutorial. No need rubric. What for the rubric? All are very declarative knowledge. So answer scheme is more appropriate. Then you will choose the rubric, either it's holistic or analytic. And then you will define the criteria or construct or weight, okay, based on the learning outcome just now. Okay, design the rating scale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you write the performance descriptions under each rating scale, under each level. Okay. So the first step, you re-examine the learning outcome. Okay, you will think. You will use the rubric to assign the student grades. If yes, it's summative. Use holistic. Will you use the rubric to provide informative feedback? If feedback, formative. Use analytic. What are the learning outcome of the task? If the learning outcome you want to process, you want to measure the process, go analytic. Okay. How will students demonstrate that they have achieved the learning outcome? So make sure that the task will allow you to measure the process and have an evidence, because remember or not, I said that the performance is indicator either your learning outcome is achieved or not. Next. So you can see that what question is suitable for analytical rubric and what question is suitable for holistic rubric. So this question will help you to choose either you want to use the analytic or holistic rubric. So again, for analytic, which you want to give feedback, okay, and also to help students to improve. But for holistic rubric is as a whole to make a general judgment, okay, and to give the summative feedback. Summative feedback is just good, not good. It's a grading, not what is not sorry. It's a what. It's not how. It's just what you get A, B, C, D. Not how you get A, how you get B, how you get C. That one is more on performance. Okay. So this is an example of analytical rubric. When you want to do the analytical rubric, okay. First, you must have the criteria. Let's say this is a communication skill just now. So criterion 1 may be the spontaneous. The criterion 2 is a body language. The criterion 3 may be the organization of ideas. So you will have a level 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have to know that which is the highest level, which is the lowest level. It can be interchangeably, but normally we will use 1 for the lower, okay, 4 for the higher level. But it depends. And you also can put 1 here, okay. You can put 1 here. You can put 4 here, as long as you know, as long as you did not use it wrongly. Okay. So for criteria 1, C1, you will have the descriptor of level 4 for C1, descriptors of level 3 for C1, descriptors of level 2 for C1, descriptors of level 1 for C1. So in analytical rubric, you will have that the descriptors for all the criteria. Okay, different with the holistic rubric. In holistic rubric, all the criterion 1, 2, 3 will have together, blend together for low, moderate, and high. Okay, for example, for high, maybe the students can talk spontaneously with the good, with the engaged body language and focus and diverse eye contact. Okay, but for description, for moderate, maybe can talk spontaneously. However, the body language is still like static, and the performer have tendency only to focus on one side, not to all the audience. You see, so all the criteria merge together. Okay, and low, maybe not confidence, cannot talk spontaneously, although can have a good organization. Means that you have to blend all the criteria in every row of the mark of the holistic rubric. So the next step, the third step is you have to define the criteria or construct. For example, just now is the communication skills. Now I'm giving another example. For example, here is the scholarship. So under the scholarship, there must be the construct or criteria. So the construct or criteria here, I put the self-directed learning, the synthesizing the information and providing the evidence. So how I get this? Either by meta-analysis, either discussion from the panel, or maybe from the existing rubric, and I do some width of level of agreement. So I know that under scholarship, these are the three important criteria to be assessed when we want to measure the scholarship. Okay. After you already know the criteria, now is the time for you to design the ranking scale. Either you want to design ascendingly or descending order. Okay, so this is an example. Okay, see, I didn't put any label. I just put mark. Okay, so under scholarship, this is the self-directed learning. Okay, which is I put the weight 40%, which is when we discuss with the panel and based on the reference, self-directed learning is the most important criteria compared to the information synthesizing and also evidence providing, something like that. Okay, so that's why I put the self-directed learning as highest weight, 40% here. Okay, and you see how this analytical rubric give the description clearly, the difference between each continuum. Okay, for example, for the first one, the students, okay, they really depend, okay, on other students. They really need others' help, and they cannot study by their own, cannot study independently. Second one, okay, the students can work independently, okay, less dependent. However, the students only can search the information using the easy access resources. Okay, the third one, so we can see that the first one cannot independent at all. The second one little bit independent and can find the easy can access the or can search the easy access resources. The third one, okay, can do dependently, and not only can find the information using easy access information, existing resources, but so many resources. Maybe go to the library, go to the internet, subscribe the journal. Okay, so that one you have to discuss with the students in the class now. What is the meaning of pelbagai sumber, multiple resources? Give example. Okay, and number 4, okay, the students can work independently. Not only use the easy access resources, the resources come from multiple resources and have a quality resources. Okay, means that maybe from the referred journal, maybe from the experts, maybe from the authority, fact and figure report. Okay, and finally, the highest one is not only independent. Okay, it's not only can find the quality of multiple resources, but can help other students, okay, to be self-directed learning or self-directed learner. Okay, means that it's not only do for himself, but the student can help others, can teach others how to be the self-directed learners. Okay, if in Islam, like not only saleh, but also musleh. Not only do a good thing for yourself, but you ask others to do the good thing. Okay, so this is an example. And finally, of course, from 5, let's say I put 4, so 4 out of 5 times 40%. So this is A score, B score, C score. Finally, the A is for the self-directed learning, B for the synthesize the information, C for the preparation of evidence. So I will divide by 100 and get the X. So the X will times with 20 because the mark here is only 20% here. Okay, so this is actually the analytical rubric. Okay. So how to establish the validity and reliability of rubrics? Okay. This one I skip first. Because it's quite technical. Okay, but first of all, what is validity? Validity is we want to measure what is supposed to be measured. Just now, what we want to measure? Scholarship. How we know we are measuring scholarship? Because we know that the underpinning theory of scholarship is self-directed learning, synthesizing the information, and also provide the evidence. Okay, so if you have that, and you can justify or you can prove that all the criteria you get is based on literature, is based on expert, so your rubric now start to have the good content validity. Okay, content validity. Okay, so the reliability is yielding the consistent result. Remember what I said? Reliability is all about the how consistent the score is appeared in the data set. So for example, let's say you are using the same rubric for this cohort, and let's say majority of the student got B. So for the next cohort, which is have the same abilities, homogeneous, okay, actually they also should get B. Okay, but let's say you are using the same rubric, but when you assess to the same ability student, the homogeneous students, the mark is very much different. So actually something wrong with your instrument. Okay, because they are homogeneous in terms of the ability, they are more or less same. I give you one easy example. Let's say I have one mathematics questions. Okay, I give to two well-known boarding school. For example, maybe Sekolah Tun Fatimah and Tengku Kursiah College. Suppose using the same instrument, if Sekolah Tun Fatimah student got C, suppose the Tengku Kursiah College also got C because they are same ability. But if let's say one of them get A, one of them get C, then we have to search. Either the rubric is the problem, or maybe have other external factors that contribute to the big gap of the different of the marks, although they are from the homogeneous or same ability student. Okay. Okay. So some common misconception about rubric. Okay. Some of the lecturer thinks that rubric are tool which is related to grading, compact to measuring the process. So as I said, that's why sometimes the PLO is communication skills stuff. But when we look at the rubric is actually to measure the assignment. Okay, cover page, grammar, what else? Sometimes attendance, some more, which is not related at all with the communication skills. So the rubric is wrong actually, because it's not measuring the communication skills. You are measuring the portfolio. You are measuring the assignment. That one should be under holistic assessment if you want to measure the assignment. Okay. So rubric should not confuse the learning outcome to be assessed with the task used to assess. We are going to measure the learning outcome, not the task. Task used to assess means that the output lah, the assignment just now. Okay. Confounding the outcomes being measured, scoring more than one content area skill at a time without recognizing them as separate skills. So means that here, sometimes there is a double barrel or multiple big difference criteria, which is it's supposed to be separated. Okay, for example, just now body language and also organizing the information. So in analytical rubric, it should be separated. Okay, if holistic, of course, it will mesh together. So scoring for extraneous features like neatness, color. Do you know that actually you cannot put attendance down in your rubric because we already have the regulations where if the students do not attend the class maybe more than 80%, they are not allowed to sit for final examination, for example. So no need actually to measure the attendance in the rubric. Some more, do the attendance is aligned with communication skills? Of course not. So there is no content validity because why attendance is the part of the criteria. So cannot. Okay, cannot. So I have question. Need to use statistical analysis on the result to check validity, right? Okay. I give you general answer first. The general answer is, okay, to find the content validity, not compulsory. Means that you can use the meta-analysis like I told you, or maybe the expert, or maybe the review from the journal or from the books, any resources. But when it comes to construct validity, yes. Construct validity, yes, you have no choice. So what's the difference between content validity and construct validity? The content validity is only to make sure that the criteria that you want to measure is really relevant, okay, for the variables or for the things to be measured, communication skill just now, okay. So the criteria is really relevant. So the relevancy can be measured or can be evaluated by the expert, and you can check from the meta-analysis, okay. However, when we say about the construct validity, it's about, do the criteria is enough to measure the communication skill? Why 3? Is this 3 really can measure the communication skills? Why don't you put another 2? Okay, that one you have to use the statistical analysis, okay, which is you can use like if you want to use the I just right now, if you want to use the confirmatory factor analysis also can, exploratory factor analysis also can, but I always use the dimensionality analysis. Okay, because dimensionality analysis is come from the modern measurement analysis, which is this is more on item response theory, and I'm very much believe that have some of you ever heard about item response theory? Okay, using and the software is rush measurement model using the software of Untitled. Okay, this software not only can give you the construct validity, because another software also can do, but the things that I see this software can do is the rating scale analysis. I'm using this software to measure the rating scale analysis, so you will know that either either the first scale can be differentiated or not with the second, third, fourth, and fifth. Okay, 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5. And either the evaluator is underrated, underestimated, or overestimated also can be detected. Only using this software. Okay, all right. So I don't want to touch about that software. Okay, next one is next slide. Okay, scoring for the things that have not been taught to do means that you didn't teach them how to improve. You didn't teach them what to do. You didn't teach it at all in the class. Suddenly you assess. This is the big mistake in assessment. You cannot assess something that you did not teach. You cannot assess something that students not learn. What is learn? Okay, learn means that education means that learning. Learning means that when the behavioral changes happen, that is learning. When the behavioral changes happen, if you go to the class and you just teach, students just receive, nothing behavioral changes happen, that is not learning. It's teaching only. Okay? So learning must be happen. Okay? The other common misconception about rubric is scoring the products rather than outcomes. That's why in assessment, we are emphasized more on the outcome, not at the output. We are looking at the measure, not at the count. Different, we didn't look at the mark. We look at the measure, the process, the becomingness. Okay? Rubric are not about the requirements for the assignment, remember. Nor are they about counting things. For example, cover page. It is more on grade focus, not the learning focus. Okay, I give you one example of the rubric, my state poster, for example. Okay. You see this rubric. Either this rubric is same like your rubric or not. Okay. This rubric actually are more like a checklist for students to use, because this rubric is listing desired attribute of the task, not the learning it is designed to represent. Okay, for example, here, the facts, it wants 6 facts. The third one, if the fact is 4 to 5. The second one is 2 to 3. The first one is several facts are missing. So actually what you can do, yes, if the students give you more than 6 facts, or no, if the student give less than 6 facts, something like that. Okay. The other comment, in this fact, okay, actually no need for you to measure using this task, this rubric. If the outcome you want students to recall the facts, why not you just make a quiz, a test, an exam, tutorial, okay, not to be formed in terms of the rubric, okay. So rubric is more than the number, okay, more than that. Okay, next, if you can see here, counts, counts here. Counts are used for the criteria of facts and grammar. See grammar? If student, if there is no mistake, get 4. If 1 to 2 mistake, get 3. If 3 to 4 mistake, get 2. If 4 mistake, get 1. Okay? So count are used for the criteria of facts and grammar as well. The only criterion with substantive description of performance is actually at each level is neatness. Okay, the poster is exceptionally attractive in terms of design, layout, and neatness. The poster is attractive in terms of the poster is attractive. The poster is acceptably. The poster is messy or very poor. However, this is not so good description also, because what do you say by messy? What do you say by acceptably? What do you say by attractive? You have to give some standard, some example. That is why the good thing also when you use rubric, if you already have the existing work, you can show the students the example of the work with which get 3, which got 2, which got 1. Also good. Okay. So if you see, this rubric is more on product based. It's more on the state poster itself rather than the process of the learning in doing the poster. Okay. So the impact when you give this rubric to the students, they could score top points of this rubric because very easy. Okay, give 6 facts. Okay, check grammarly. No grammar mistake, for example. So in fact, they're understanding nothing actually, except how to make a neat poster. Because the rubric just now is more on the poster, not on the process of developing the poster. And unluckily, if let's say they learn something from there, your rubric cannot measure, cannot tell you how the process is happened. Okay, so that's a problem. So this rubric is more appropriate to the task-based, means more appropriate to the holistic rather than learning-based. Okay, which is actually in university normally holistic rubric is not exist because lecturer use the final exam. Okay, so we use more on analytical rubrics. In summary, rubrics with criteria that are about the task with description of performance that amount to checklist for direction. Okay, finally, that rubric is just have or not. It's more on the compliance. Okay, how many mistakes? Okay, so more than no mistakes, full mark. 3 to 4 mistakes, 2 marks. It's more on compliance, not learning. So rubrics with count instead of quality description assess the existing of something, not the quality. So most of the time, if you have the rubric like this, you cannot measure your intended learning outcome. You cannot measure because normally our CLO is more on the student process. Okay, student learning process compared to the product itself. Okay, so if you have any questions, Dr. Shariza?
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Arima. So, if there is anybody who would like to ask any question, you can please unmute your mic or you can type in the chat.
Thank you very much for the feedback. Dr. Clement. You have so many international staff in UMT.
We have a few, and we have also some of them who attended this currently right now.
Okay, Masya Allah. Thank you.
Dr. Adibah, while waiting for others to ask, I want to know. You see, it's true, and I agree with you when you said they need to be exposed several times before we really mention them. Okay.
Yeah.
But there are some people, when we try to do like that, they say that you cannot do that because it's not fair. That means you are already helping them to get high marks. Whereas for those who really understand the process of learning, that is the way where we wanted them to achieve a certain level. How do you deal with this?
Okay, means that the student or the lecturer?
The lecturer, the perception of this, because some of them, they say that we cannot give them rubric, otherwise they know already what they will be tested. Testing means that they don't know what will be tested, but they know that the topic they need to read.
Okay, understand. Okay, first of all, testing is not to sniff the mistake. Okay, in testing, actually, we want to measure the real ability of students. Okay, so I understand. For example, in final examination, some lecturers maybe they feel that if the students cannot answer the questions that she or he developed or make, means that maybe they feel that they are good lecturer yang hebat, tak ada orang boleh jawab soalan dia. Actually, vice versa. It shows that something wrong with your teaching and learning because you cannot discriminate between the the ability of the student. Okay, so I come back with your question, Doctor. So when we say about assessment, okay, it's not about to compare the student. Please, it's not compare the student. If until now we are thinking about compare the student, it's very different for the parents outside, okay, because now Ministry of Education, they try to switch from exam-based to school-based assessment, which is very actually hard to implement because sometimes the teacher themselves, they still compare the student. Who get number 1, who get number 2, who get number 3, for example. Rather than give the rubric, this is what you should do. This is what you should do. As I said, when we do the assessment, actually we want all the students perform. We want all the students get the best, show the maximum performance. Okay? But if we did not give the rubric, so how we want to guide them, okay, to behave or to perform according to our standard. Why our standard? Because we are subject matter expert in our subject. So of course we know what is the minimum requirement for the students to achieve. So by having the rubrics, we want at least the students will get at the end of the course at least 3, for example. So it's nothing to do either. It's unfair. It's unfair actually if you didn't give the rubric. It's unfair for the students. Okay.
So tadi there's one question at the chat.
Doctor, can we sum up all the marks of the criteria? All formative assessment become a summative mark. Okay. Can, but the last one. Okay, I told you that we can have the few draft, draft 1, draft 2, draft 3, draft 4, for example. So you please use the last draft, not give an average. So the last draft is be given as the final mark for the CLO. Okay, for the CLO. But finally, that mark of course will be added, okay, to give grade for the student. Means that finally, let's say the student get A. So the A, 40 marks is from final examination. 60 marks is actually from the formative assessment. So the formative assessment is not become a summative assessment actually. It still become a formative assessment, but we add up the mark, okay, formative and summative, and we give the grade. Okay, something like that. Okay. So the answer is yes, you can sum up. Okay, Doctor. Can rubric be considered? Okay. Can rubric be considered as a type of a scaffolding? Well, I can say yes because it's very important. And if your rubric is wrong, you will give the wrong interpretation. Okay? For example, just now, let's say you want to measure the communication skill. But suddenly, in the criteria, what you have is the neatness, attendance, right? So it looks like that you want to measure the temperature, but you are using the weighing scale. The mark is still out. The mark is still there, but it's wrong. This is what we are very afraid of. We're afraid because if just now the example of temperature and weighing scale is very clear, but we don't know either the lecturer, they are using the temperature to measure the weight. Because we don't know either, when we look how come you measure the communication skills, but the criteria here is attendance and neatness of the report. So, means that it's wrong already. So the scaffold of the mark is very weak. So it's not give the content validity. So it's wrong. The mark is wrong. Let's say the students get A, the A is useless. Means that it's not represent the real ability or real interpretation of students' ability.
Is there any more question? Okay, I guess that's about it, Dr. Adibah.
Okay.
If not, maybe we can. Any last word? But before that, I think this will not be the last session with you with UMT, because we plan to invite you some more because this is part of the process in which we want to develop the skills of developing rubrics among our lecturers. And just now, as you highlighted, is true, because some of the rubrics I realized that is still based on the checklist. It's not rather than the rubric itself. Which, as you said, like you said, in there must have 4 to 5 content. And I recently noticed that, like in some rubrics, if you have 5 references, that means you get 1 mark. If you have 20 references, you get 5 marks. Right?
So you're measuring the task.
Yes. So we want to develop the skills among our lecturers so that they really develop a proper rubric. Well, any last word from you before we close the session?
Okay, so before that, I promise to give you some example of meta-analysis. So let's say this is the just now the criteria. So how many of the researchers, okay, say that criteria is important? So it will be the main criteria for you, okay? And I will show you also some example of construct validity. So in this case, for example, this rubric can measure 51.6% of communication skills. So it is good. The cut score is 40%. Have some example, you see here, only can measure 24.6. Means that if the students got A in communication skills, actually the A only covered 24.6% of variance. That's why the construct validity is very important. Okay, Dr. Shariza, my last word. Thank you very much. So assessment is the heart of learning and teaching process. If you want to change the students, you have to change the assessment because they have no choice. They have to go through the assessment. But remember, you have to be fair. You have to use the valid instrument. Okay, look at the outcome, not at the output. Look at the measure, not at the count. Okay, that's all. So, Salam Ramadan. Happy Lailatul Qadr, inshallah. And thank you very much for everyone to listen to the session, inshallah. Thank you, Dr. Shariza, and thank you, UMT.
Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Adibah, for giving us a very clear view on rubrics. And we hope that the participants increase their understanding based on the 2 sessions that we have. This is a more detailed one in which you all can see the process and how this is being developed, and we have been exposed about construct and content validity. Well, again, I would like to thank you, Dr. Adibah, and to all participants who joined this session. And with this, selamat berbuka and selamat Hari Raya. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Until we meet again, for those of you who are still here, I just want to inform this 20th May, maybe this one for internal, we will have a talk by Dr. Chong Julian on penggunaan LMS, our UMT system for penilaian. Alright. With this, Assalamualaikum and thank you again, Dr. Adibah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shamida. Okay.
Okay.